bringing down civilization, when I talk about that, it's not a monolithic act. It's a billion different acts done by a billion different people. And part of my definition, actually my definition of bringing down civilization is depriving the rich of the ability to steal from the poor and depriving the powerful of the ability to destroy the world. Okay, that's nice, Derrick, but that doesn't alter the fact that there are people who are dependent upon this social system which is killing the planet. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that just like any good abusive situation, we have been made dependent upon the very system that's exploiting us. And part of the reason that we don't fight back more is because if your experience is that your water comes from a tap and that your food comes from a grocery store, not your head, not your heart, but your experience, if that's your experience, you will fight to the death to defend that system that brings you your food and water, because your life depends on it. And similarly, if your water comes from a river and your food comes from a land base, people used to drink out of rivers, how quaint is that? If your experience is that your water comes from a river and that your food comes from a land base, you will fight to the death to defend that because your life depends on it. But we have all been so made dependent on this system. I mean, it becomes really problematical. It's very nice, Derrick, but what are you going to do about this? Anyway, back to the original thing, that taking down civilization is not a monolithic act. It's a billion different acts with a billion different moralities. And so, for example, I don't care what your motivation is, if you blow up a children's hospital, that is an atrocity. I don't care if you're an anarcho-primitivist or if you're a member of the US military. That's just bad. There is no way you can make a moral case for blowing up a children. Oh, if you're bringing freedom and democracy to a country. Which, by the way, I figured out how to listen to George Bush's speech without going insane. Well, turn off the volume for one thing. But if you're not going to do that, another way to do it that actually makes everything perfectly clear is just do a word substitution. And I came up with this idea back when they did the whole freedom fries thing, when they changed French fries to freedom fries. It's great. All you do is word for word substitution. Every time George Bush says the word freedom, substitute the word fascism. Every time he says the word democracy, substitute the word corporate control. So we're bringing freedom and democracy to Iraq. Damn straight. Oh, I want to say something else too, and we're going to get back to the other, don't worry. And everybody in here, of course, by now certainly knows why my books are written in a nonlinear fashion. Anyway, this whole we thing, you know, we're bringing freedom and democracy to Iraq, is just so weird, because one of the things I think we really need to do is break that identification with the system and with those in power. That's like this friend of mine called me up not very long ago, and she said, how much longer do you think we're going to be in Iraq? And I said, we're in Iraq? Oh my God, I thought we were in Northern California. And he's like, okay. How much longer do you think our troops are going to be in Iraq? I said, I got troops? Holy shit, will they do what I tell them? If I tell them to take out the Grand Coulee, will they do it? And he's like, Derrick, this is why I only call you once every 6 weeks. Anyway, so you know, I don't care what your motivation is, you cannot make a moral case for blowing up a children's hospital. That's just an atrocity. I have to admit that line has never before gotten a joke or a laugh. I'm sorry?
You have to go to Nicaragua. You have to go to Nicaragua.
Okay.
Because they destroyed some hospitals.
Right. Well, but see, you can't make a moral case. Well, except if you're bringing freedom and... The point, insofar as there is one, is that we can make up any hypothetical case we want to keep us from ever doing anything. And the truth is, once again, that on a real fundamental level, you can't make a moral case against taking out cell phone towers. Okay, that's nice, Derrick, but the truth is that when this culture falls apart, as this culture falls apart, a lot of people are going to die. It's like, okay, my next answer is, who are we talking about? If we're talking about salmon people, they're like, bring that fucker down. Talking about polar bear people, they're like, yep. prairie dog people, they're like, yep, yep, yep. What about subsistence farmers? Subsistence farmers around the world. It's like I asked my friend Anuradha Mittal, former executive director of Food First, if the people of India would be better off if the global economy disappeared tomorrow. And she said, of course. And some of the examples she gave is there are former granaries of India that are now exporting dog food and tulips to Europe. So there are people who are starving to death right now because where they used to get their food is now making cash crops. And of course, this happens the world over. So it depends who we're talking about. You know, it's like the indigenous people, the traditional indigenous people around the world would be better off immediately. The subsistence farmers, better off immediately. The landless being forced off their land, better off immediately. Rural poor, the world over, better off immediately. I mean, it's like, what is it? I'm going to make up this number, but it's like 30% of the people in the world have no access, have like never used electricity. It's some fairly high percentage, 30, 40%, something like that. I mean, so they're not going to be bothered one bit by the removal of the electrical infrastructure. So the rural poor, many of them would be better off immediately. The urban poor would be, well, the urban rich actually would be, I'm sorry, the rural poor would be better off immediately. The rural rich would be fine. They're going to have guns anyway. The urban poor are fucked. Well, in one sense, they would be in really bad, and of course in the long run they'd be better off because the system that's exploiting them would be gone, but in the short run they'd be really, really bad because the food is coming in to the city. But on the other hand, you want to talk about instant land reform? Remove U.S. support for the governing people immediately, and you got instantaneous land reform. So, I don't know. And then there's also the urban rich, but fuck them, they're the problem in the first place. Okay, here's another part, is that I can guarantee, this is actually more important, I can guarantee that 100% of the problems as this culture collapses are going to be because those in power, those who are already destroying the world, attempt to maintain that lifestyle as the world collapses. At any moment, those in power, whatever that means, could choose to have a soft landing. I mean, that's one of my secret fantasies, is that suddenly we start using all of this cleverness that we think we have to actually solve problems instead of make new ones. And that, you know, the feds start paying Weyerhaeuser not to deforest, but to reforest. I mean, I don't fucking care if Weyerhaeuser still gets the money. I don't care about justice in that sense. I just want forests. And so it's like they can even give the same goddamn subsidies, the same goddamn companies, and if it was moving the right direction, I wouldn't complain. It's like we always hear that the world's running out of water. We hear that all the time. You know, people are dying of thirst because we're running out of water. Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. Goddamn, George Bush goddamn fucking bullshit. The world is not running out of water. Water is being stolen. 90% of the water that's used by human beings is used for industry and agriculture. It's like they always say, take shorter showers. Fuck. You know, all that does is annoy the people close to you. The same amount of water is used by municipal human beings as is used for municipal golf courses. Once again, 90% of the water is used for agriculture and industry. So people are not running out of water. Water is being stolen from them. And so it's like if somebody were to take out the Glen Canyon Dam, or if it were just to collapse on its own, the point is that, I mean, we all know the numbers, you know, from Francis Moore Lepay and everything about how there is enough food to feed everyone, and we could have that soft landing. Those in power could choose at any moment. But it's like, that's nice, Derek, but that doesn't alter the fact that wanting to bring down civilization is going to kill a lot of people. Even if those decisions are made by those in power, it's still going to kill a lot of people. And I finally came up with an answer that I'm really happy with, and I want to share that with you now. You know, what do you do with the fact that no matter what you do, you're involved in mass murder? You know, because if you're civilized if you're part of this system already, your hands are blood red. It's just you don't notice it usually. You know, and every action within the industrial economy is harmful, which is really fucked up too. I mean, that's another thing that that's been stolen from us, is the ability to have a fine meal without it being destructive. The ability to simply live without knowing that you're destroying things by your actions. Anyway, what do you do with the fact that no matter what you do, you're involved in mass murder? And for now, I've got an answer. If you've gotten this far in this book, if you're simply anything other than entirely insensate, we probably agree that civilization is going to crash, whether or not we help bring it about. If you don't agree with this, we probably have nothing to say to each other. Hey, Lou Piniella got picked up by the Cubs. That's pretty cool. We probably also agree that the crash will be messy. We agree further that since industrial civilization is systematically dismantling the ecological infrastructure of the planet, the sooner civilization comes down, whether or not we help it crash, the more life will remain afterwards to support both humans and non-humans.